thought I'd give everybody a really good look at that little artistry piece for the movie that we're doing today, which is POM POKO.
Yes.
So, how are you doing this morning, trouble number one?
Well, to be perfectly honest, trouble number two, I'm a lot happier than the last time because I've got to co-host. I've got to co-host. Yay!
This co host is live, feeling better, actually alive.
Yeah, and I was
So,
say, how are you today? Are you all raring to get stuck in?
um, I'm feeling better. Like I said, when I was on with you a couple weeks ago, I was having such horrible, horrible muscle spasms that my entire body was spasming. So I was not doing good at all. I really shouldn't probably have come on because you were doing just great by yourself. And I must say, I absolutely adored the fact that we have a person who constantly, likes to come in and, ask questions. And they're very thought provoking questions. So I hope during the rest of this program, we'll at least get some coming in from not only everybody else that's listening, but definitely Justin.
Well, he is hoping. He is
Yeah.
hoping. I mean, he was my lifesaver 2 weeks ago. My lifesaver. I couldn't believe. I thought, oh no, here we go.
If I can say one thing about the name of the program that we're doing, I don't think the name should be POM POKO. I really don't.
What do you think it should be?
Balls, balls, balls. Balls. Furry balls. Big balls. Balls, balls, balls.
I not going to reply to that one. Yes, I suppose so. Yes. Um, in case people are somewhat concerned about what we're talking about, we are talking about things like this. This is a Japanese raccoon dog, or the star of the film. As you can see, they're not really raccoon. They're raccoon-ish, I suppose. They are indigenous to Japan, and they can actually climb trees. So
They,
why do?
they are more relative to foxes than they actually are raccoons.
Yeah, I mean they've got a very fox-like face and ears, but it's the fact that they climb trees. I mean, why on earth would they develop that habit of climbing a tree? But by the by, shall we get started on our wonderful journey of discovery of POM POKO? Or
I think so. And as a first statement that I kind of wanted to make is um, this movie will have you. It is a weird, it is a fun, it is um, a joyful movie to watch in some spaces. But then if you break that away, you also see it being having a lot of the Eastern and religions incorporated into it. It is definitely an environmental film, and it has to do a lot with a lot of the Marxism that came, and as well as it's just not the environmentalism and how we need to be looking out after nature, but it also plays into what the Western culture has done majorly with getting rid of a lot of indigenous population.
yeah,
So within all of that, there are so many different fragments to this movie.
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, when I first watched it, the first thing that struck me was actually the way it is presented. If you think about this, the way it is presented, the way you have the narration throughout the film, it's done in what I would call um, an old Edo fashion. You know, the old Edo stories, the
Yes.
myths from the Edo period, and the way that
Hmm.
they tell. I find that this film is done in that fashion.
Um, yes, I think it is. It is more episodic than it is actually a story that will just run straight through.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. It is like I said, more episodic too. You've got this certain group that's doing this. You've got this other group that's doing this.
Mm.
You've got some groups that are, dealing with suicide. You've got other groups that are dealing with 100%. It's all got to be war. We've got to, kill the
Yeah,
enemy. And
yeah,
then other groups that are trying to work together to, see if it can work out.
yeah. I mean, the one that brings in the kamikaze element is Gonta.
Yes.
He's the one that suggests, I think it's about three-quarters of the way through the film, that they should take up action, that even if it costs them their lives, that they should take human lives. Which, if you kind of think about it, is kind of what Japan did in end of 44, beginning of 45.
Exactly. If not even a little earlier, but yes,
Yeah.
there's a lot of that belief in the kamikaze system as well.
Yeah. I mean, the bit that gets me as well is Granny knows best. The lead character, Granny. I mean, for me, she is just 100%. She reminds me of somebody, but I'm not saying who. Liz.
Yeah, yeah, I have no comment. I will talk to you about that later.
She just has that presence. She can walk into a situation and everybody just shuts up and looks at Granny, and whatever Granny says, that's it. The law has been passed. Nobody can argue.
But you know what's funny? Going back to the beginning of the story, when it's, I wouldn't say rural, outskirts of Tokyo, but it was a very simple life, and not a lot of the forestry was destroyed, anything like that. And two factions started fighting against each other because they did notice that their forests were shrinking,
Hmm.
and they didn't really, because they were fighting so much in these 33 years of the POM POKO War, they didn't really realize how much civilization had taken out and around them until
Yeah,
Granny comes through and says, hey, wait a minute. Now what's funny is the voice actress who was playing that and she's a phenomenal voice actress, um, but she had a hard time coming through to do it with how simplified she is beating the drum, and she has to come across exactly on beat to this. And for the American translations, it was even worse because they couldn't really follow the beat and the tone. And it was a nightmare for her to have to try to follow on beat with that.
yeah, I
I
can
think
imagine.
I think she did a phenomenal job.
True, true.
So,
What I didn't realize is this actually ties in with the film that we've already reviewed.
and there's another one coming too that it ties in with.
Yes. Do you know the one that we've already done? We've already reviewed that this ties in with?
Mm,
And it's to do with a cast member. I'll give you that much of a clue.
let's do the cast member. Okay, you'll have to tell me on that one.
Right. Yukuri Ishida is an Japanese actress, right?
Okay.
She plays Okuyo in this. She's also the voice of San in Princess Mononoke.
Oh, that's right. She is. But I was going to say the other movie that this ties into is one that I want to do here in a little bit. Is Tama Newtown
Yeah,
actually is the same place that Whispers from the Heart is done.
is it?
Yes, it's the same town.
Tama. I know it's a real place. I mean,
Yeah.
um, you can get on. I know one of the lines that go through Tama is Odakyu, coming out of Shinjuku, and they go through to Tama Central. Um, it's quite a large town. Let's have a look. Just to show you what you can see in Tama. Here we go. This is in Tama.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So, despite the fact that it is a modern town, I mean, I believe the film itself starts in 1960 and then
Yes.
jumps from 60 through till about 1980, 1990 or thereabouts.
Well, it was released in certain parts in 94.
Yeah,
It did not get its US release until 95. But in Japan, I believe it was released in 94.
yeah. I mean, they might not have that particular theme park that they mentioned, but they do have a theme park. There you go, you see.
Well, the one thing that I find so fascinating about the creator of this, uh, he is the co-creator of Ghibli Studios, and he
Yeah.
had worked hand in hand with Miyazaki. And granted, he does not do Miyazaki's style; he does his own. And unfortunately, the artist has since passed. But he definitely has put his own imprint on the majority of the movies that he has done. But he tends to go back through and not only do like the real towns and um, real mythology behind a lot of this stuff. He will
Oh yeah.
also bring forward storytelling that from authors and things like that. He will bring forward. In fact, if I remember correctly, this was the second time that he had brought forward a story from other stories that were written. One was 808. Um, the 808, which were a um, they were the raccoon dogs, yes, but they were like a warrior group, and there was 808 of them. And I believe the story that he wrote was the Raccoon Wars.
Yeah. But as you said before, I mean, Shinto is is held large in this particular film.
Mm-hmm.
It is held large. I mean, most of the stories that the raccoon dogs actually reference are all Shinto stories
The
of the gods,
major, yeah,
and the temples are all. I mean, I think it's only the old geezer, the old guy that at- near the end with the raccoon dogs that can't transform. He brings in Buddhism and does
correct.
A Buddhist dance thing.
There was three different religions: Buddhism, um, Shintoism, and another one. I can't think of what the third one was. But each one of them represented, um, when they would transform into things, each one of them represented what the main, for lack of a better word, deity was
Yeah.
for each one of that.
Oh yeah.
Um,
You had all the yokai, all the
yes,
Japanese yokai were there, and what
you
have
had
you.
you had the Japanese yokai, which was predominant throughout the movie, but you also had a lot of the Chinese religions, which
Mhm.
were thrown in there as well.
Yeah.
And one of the main things, since we're speaking of that, and we're going through when they did the parade of all the
Yeah.
monsters parade, that had so many different references to different parts of mythology. But did you notice it also had a massive Easter egg?
What, as in a proper Easter egg or an Easter egg that I should have looked at and missed?
A proper Easter egg. You should have seen it. It should have slapped you in the face.
I probably missed it. I was probably too engrossed in something else. What did I miss?
There were at least four references to Ghibli films. There was a Totoro.
Yeah.
Um, there was Kiki. Um, oh, I got to think of the other two.
Mononoke?
No, Mononoke wasn't in there. I think I wrote it down as some notes. Oh, that was why I didn't remember it. Tekho, and that's from the movie Only Yesterday,
Okay.
was in there, and then of course Pocoroso.
Oh, right. I must have missed that one.
Yeah, they're kind of floating by as you go. I saw that and
Yeah.
I'm like, it's been years since I'd watched this, and I'm sitting here watching it. I'm going, wait a minute, because I have a fascination with Totoro's. I'm like,
I
wait a
would
minute.
never have. I would
Yeah,
never have guessed that.
yeah. Actually, it's kind of funny because I have noticed in both Miyazaki and several other artists as well, they do tend to throw in these like little Easter eggs that make you, for their other movies or the other films that have come out in their
Yeah.
studios.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
you,
They. I think they do that because they've got people like us that troll these films
well, you know what's
because
funny is Disney does it constantly with almost
yeah,
every single animation they do. If you look, you'll see, Mrs. Potts from Beauty and the Beast, or you'll see, the ship that's sailing, from Frozen, or different things like that.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
so
yeah.
it's
Got to be honest and say that a lot of the anime that I've got here, they do it as well. Even in the anime series, they will pull something in and and throw it out. I mean, there's a series that I got from America called Princess, um,
mhm.
and in one of the episodes in Princess, they have a like a school concert, and the three main characters actually sing a song, which is the theme tune to another anime of the time.
Oh, yeah, I think I remember you saying something about that.
And and you think, why would you do this? And then you suddenly think back and think, no, no, no. I get why you do this because you're telling everybody else, one, this is not your first go around the
Right.
block. And
Yeah.
two, if you want another laugh, try this. And it's I suppose it's a subtle form of advertising. We've been here some time. We've been round the block a few times. Go check this film out. Or go check this anime
This other one
series out.
out.
It's. I also
Mm.
find this film for me. It says to me, nature will find a way, no matter what
What?
mankind throws at it. It will work its way round, and it will succeed in some
Most
fashion.
definitely. Most absolutely definitely. Um, and when you're making that connection of if you watch something, and you like it, and there's another movie or something referenced, to go watch it. I actually had the same experience, but it wasn't with another movie. It was with a book.
Oh yeah,
Do you remember when I have a hard time saying his name, Shokinchi, and his little mate, the girl raccoon,
I
they
think.
became the little children spirits.
Oh, I think I know what you're on about. Yeah,
Yeah. Um, a lot of times, and I don't think it's just within um, Eastern ghost stories or whatever, but it's also, I believe, with Western. They have their own similarity to some of this stuff. Is the house spirits.
yeah,
But what I think is really funny, and I had mentioned this before, is that this actually was an adaptation from another story that was written, um, called the Twin Star Children, and it was written by Kinji Miyazawa, and it was his story, Futago, Futago no Hushi. And this was, like I said, the second time that Takahana updated a Miyazawa story. So he's done this twice. Like I said, the first time I believe was 108 tanuki. Excuse me, 808 tanuki. Boy, why do I have 100 in my mind?
I have no
But
idea.
I don't know either. But the one of the other movies that he or stories that he also adapted was one that was written in 1981, and it was called Gotch the Cellist. So he has gone and done multiple different things to that and incorporated other stories. And because I like the story of how they did it with the two little house spirits, I went and actually read that book, and it was a fun little read.
Oh, right. I'll have to keep my eye open. Yeah, you were right about this. It was released in Japan on July the 16th, 1994, to both
Mwah.
critical and commercial success. But it did get put forward for the Academy Award for the Best Foreign Language Film, but it wasn't accepted as a
Accepted.
nominee.
Correct.
I mean,
But I believe the 42nd um, Film Awards in Japan, it was accepted and did win an award.
um, I did. I only got awards in the nominations. It won Best Animation Film at the 49th Manishi Film Awards.
Oh, it was the 49th, not the 42nd. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
I was
I've
only
just
7 years off.
been reading here actually that the phrase "POM POKO" in the title refers to the sound of the tanuki drumming their bellies
Correct.
from a 1919 poem.
Hmm.
1919. I mean, you
And
know,
if you have any pictures of the gentleman that wrote this poem, an incredibly good looking man.
no, I don't think I've ever come
Yeah,
across him, to be
I saw
honest.
the picture and I'm like, wow.
Hang on, let's have a. Oh, yeah. Oh, Ujio Noguchi was a Japanese poet and lyricist of children's songs and traditional Minyo folk music. He wrote some of the most beloved and familiar pieces for children and youth choirs. Oh, well, there you go.
Yep,
He is quite a gentleman.
I agree.
Quite a gentleman. Oh, Akai Kusu, red shoes. Oh, well, there you go. Uh, let's see if I can show the ladies and gents what this gentleman looks like. And there he is.
Hmm.
That is the gentleman we're talking about.
And actually, there was
She's-
another picture that I had seen of him just a tad bit younger, which was very nice picture.
he looks he looks like somebody that has what I would call a vivid imagination.
I think he would have to create these stories and poems.
Yeah, yeah, I suppose he would. I suppose he would. Um, I find that the whole thing really when you put it all together, it it draws you in and makes you sit and think.
It does.
I mean, you look at this and you think, what is he getting at? I mean, I thought it was Miyazaki first off. Then I went looking, and then I read the credits at the end, and it's as you say, it's Ayoso Takahata.
Yeah, Dakota, yeah.
Yeah, Takahata. I mean, if you think he was also, I believe he's also responsible for Grave of the Fireflies.
Grave of the Fireflies, correct.
Yeah. So he doesn't, unlike Miyazaki, who does things like Spirited Away and Kiki's Delivery Service. Takahata seems to stick to what he knows, which is Japanese stories myths, and he sets them in the real place. So
Yeah.
you can then look at what he's doing and you think, wow, really,
And it's like I said at the beginning, you can first start to look at this, and it is a absolutely fun little womp, hysterical. It's like when, they realize they need to cut down on their population, which actually kind of, if you're not paying attention to it, it'll slip by you. But, that was a very strong point that actually now a lot of the cultures really kind of are thinking about doing. It's like you can't go and have, 4 kids, 6 kids, or, more than that.
Well,
Sometimes you,
also, if you think about it, it's a problem the Japanese are suffering from now.
mm, yeah,
Is a distinct lack of
mm,
population.
right,
I mean, they don't have the young ones coming through in the numbers that they want. They're actually now looking outside the country to bring young people in, which I
yeah.
think, unfortunately, will be detrimental to Japanese life in many, many ways.
I don't feel that the old culture will stay.
No,
I think in
unfortunately.
50, I'm sorry, but I truly feel within 50 years, the pure Japanese culture that we know will be gone.
That would not
It
surprise me.
it will not exist anymore.
No. I mean, which would be a shame. Would be a
And
very big shame.
and that is the same thing that goes back to any indigenous culture as well. Starting back, with indigenous Americans, our culture is wiped out. It being forced into doing something, being forced into the white man's world of, religion and work, and you need to wipe out your language and forget, how to do things.
Yeah,
That was wiped out very quickly. And it is not, even now, the elders that remember it are starting to pass away. And more, younger ones and other things, because of the lands and stuff that they live on, are in such poverty, which also kind of plays into POM POKO with what we see going on later,
yeah,
with the whole situation with the animals, is, they're leaving. They're either accepting their life to have to go on into the human world or the white man's world, or they starve to death and are living hand to mouth and getting stuff out of the trash, or they just give up.
yeah. I mean, I agree. Most indigenous populations have had that problem for centuries. I mean, although it's not quite as bad as the Native American situation, it happened in Wales with the Welsh.
Hmm.
It happened in Scotland with the Scottish language and Scottish
Yeah,
traditions, and it happened in Ireland. Um, as they say, the strong will out and the weak go under.
exactly.
Um, and sometimes it's not always for the best.
No.
Not always for the best. Um, now, I may be wrong, but I do believe there are certain Native American tribes, especially north of the present United States border, who are actually starting to re-emerge,
Yes, they are.
and being allowed to express their culture, their language, their traditions, which
But
um,
that in itself still goes. There's still so much hidden and not explained, and it's almost a danger to do some things. There
yeah,
are so many indigenous young people that have disappeared.
oh yeah, um, which is why I think the Japanese culture slowly slipping away um, is a shame.
Yeah.
Uh, I, I mean, I get the fact that young people want to be with the in crowd, but then again, is the in crowd always the best crowd? No, not necessarily.
It's like Japan now has become one of the leaders of technology,
Yeah,
worldwide. Um, they're also, I feel, one of the leaders in entertainment.
true,
But
but they are being heavily censored now, and on that entertainment and on certain other fronts, and it's only the metropolises like Tokyo or
mhm,
Osaka, and maybe slightly, I suppose you say Kyoto, um, that have got all the technology. Um, I've never been to Japan, but apparently, if you actually go out into the countryside, um, you don't have to go that far. You actually start to find that things like the internet, it's not that brilliant. Um,
it's more like
the
the inner
modern
what?
pub,
I was going to say it's more like the internet what? The inner
yeah,
what?
yeah, exactly. It's not that brilliant. And then all these wonderful Japanese toilets, which when you see them, you think, "Wow, I love that." Um, you go to some of these places in the countryside, and no,
Yeah.
um, you're holding on to a couple of bars on the wall, and pardon the phrase, but you're hoping your aim is true
Exactly.
because it's just a hole in the ground. Um, there was a YouTube video. He's a Canadian, and he takes you around various places in Japan. And he went to one of these deserted villages in the mountains somewhere outside Tokyo, um, and he showed you some of the houses, and you look inside them and you think, my God, that would not look out of place in the 18th or 19th century, and yet people were living in these houses up to maybe the 1950s or 60s. Um, and that just shows you that yes, Japan has come a long way, but there's a lot of Japan that has never caught up.
No, I agree with that. But I do think, like I was saying, within 50 years, the majority of the younger generation coming up won't want to keep being that way.
No, no, you're
And
seeing
the
that
older
now.
generation will, be passing on. And it's the old cultures and the old ways will be gone.
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, unfortunately, you get the statement of, "Oh, that's progress." Is it? They always used to say that if a civilization or a culture loses the connections to its history, traditions, and culture, it loses itself. And
Exactly.
unfortunately, um, I think that's true
Hmm.
in many, many ways. If you lose the connections to your culture, to your history, to who you are in many, many ways, you lose yourself. Eventually, you lose yourself. You become just an homogenous conglomerate of nothingness because
Yeah.
there's no solid foundation there.
No, there's
And
not.
that's just how I feel.
Yeah. But I think that also was very well expressed within the movie.
Yeah.
Um, to especially at the end, you know, when a couple of them are trying so hard to live because they could transform. Because the whole thing was there was a group that could transform, there was a whole other group that couldn't, you
No.
know. And those that could transform went and transformed as humans, but they had a hard time incorporating themselves to a human job.
Yeah.
Same thing as with, several other cultures around the world. They are even here in America, the American farmer, the
Yeah.
generations after generations of the American farmer, to now having lost their farmland and their way of life to corporations, and are now having to, move to the city or move into doing other things that is sheer torture and misery to them to try to incorporate into that, and they can't.
Yeah. True. Um, I I think as well as you saw at the end of the film, um, you think they're in a forest, in a clearing, and it's not until they actually pull back that you
That,
find no, they're actually on the links of a golf course. And you
which
think,
I thought was rather amazing that that's what they did. But you know, just before then, it's actually mentioned that when they finally unveiled themselves to the humans, it was a step in the right direction, but it was way too late to do
yeah,
anything. And all they had was these little tiny strips of land, these little tiny parks. And to get to them, they were getting hit by traffic, you
yeah,
know, and all sorts of things. Probably, although it didn't show it, probably being killed by other animals like dogs,
yeah,
and just in
and
general, other
disease.
things. Yeah,
Yeah,
starvation,
exactly.
which we did see that, that they were trying to steal, from the garbage cans and stuff.
I see. The
So,
thing that I think you could actually relate to that story at the end um, is the polar bears.
mm-hmm.
If you think of what the polar bears are going through at this specific time, they've got privation because the sea ice is gone. Their food's further out. Man's encroaching on the land. Um, so yes,
So what are
Pompoko.
they doing? They're walking straight through the towns
Yeah,
right to the dumps, creating more of a problem, which, like you said, has been, getting worse and worse as each year passes. But
yeah,
that's been an issue and problem since the late 70s and early 80s with polar bears.
yeah. But then again, you see, mankind, being mankind, has closed their eyes, put their head between their legs, and kissed their butt goodbye because they're not interested.
Exactly.
Which is, I'm not an ecologist. I'm not, so we say, one of these Greenpeace hippies that go around and think that everything that we've done is bad. It's not. But there are things that we do need to stop and look and think.
Yeah. Well,
And
deforestation, for example.
yeah,
We have gone through and done so much damage and deforestation that now we are having severe environmental problems. We have
exactly.
fires in places that last for months, in places that never had fires more than a couple of weeks at most,
Well, yeah.
and
I
places
mean,
where fires never really went rampant. Australia has never had outbreaks of fires like they've had in the last couple of years.
true.
Italy has gotten them. And of
And,
course,
yeah,
you know,
when you take what they used to call the lungs of the world,
mm,
which was the Amazon, when you are removing 20 to 30 football fields
yeah,
of trees for agriculture that lasts less than 2 years, and then the soil is useless because the topsoil just washes away.
mm,
I mean, you know, this film itself, on one part of the film, they tell you they take the rivers and they put them into concrete canals
yeah,
that go straight down. I mean, in the 60s and 70s, that was thought to be the in thing. We've since discovered that water coming down the hill in that kind of a trough, builds up a hell of a lot of power, gets a good head of steam up, and can take houses and people at the bottom of the hill out.
Well, look at Katrina.
Yeah. I
We
mean,
had a hurricane that just barely hit. I mean, they skidded by with very minimal damage. It was the levees that broke and all that water rushing in the next 2 or 3 days that created the massive devastation that
yeah,
people in New Orleans have still not recovered from, and the good majority of them won't.
yeah,
You
exactly.
know, and it was not just New Orleans that this has happened to; it's happening all over the world. Wildfires are happening all over the world. Canada, here, us, like I said, Australia.
Here,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I mean, every environmental disaster that's happening is because balance is offset. You need to have a yin and a yang, not
yeah,
just all wholly one thing, because
yeah,
it's leaving such a devastation to the other.
exactly. But then again, you can't leap, like you say, you can't leap to one side. Like you can't go completely green
Exactly.
because it's not. It's going to take other people and put them in a disadvantage.
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, it would be lovely if we had a power source that didn't pollute the world. Um, I certainly don't think electric cars are the way to go.
I I don't think they are either, and it's absolutely nothing political when I say this.
No, that's not
But
political with me either. It's
it
not political with me.
have you seen how much strip mining is done to get a lot of these components that are coming out of the ground to make
Exactly.
these electric cars? And
Exactly.
there are ways to do it, but it is not nearly as economical as it is with just, okay, we'll just strip mine the land and pull out our elements
Yeah.
instead
But
of taking
also,
10 to 15 years
yeah,
to,
the thing is
yeah,
as well with these electric cars. For instance, if you take an internal combustion engine vehicle and you put it next to an electric vehicle and you want to scrap both vehicles, now we're talking diesel or petrol, doesn't matter which one do you think is going to cause the greater ecological problems to get rid of?
diesel easily.
No, it's the electric vehicle.
Oh, that's right. You had mentioned the electric. I'm sorry. I thought
Yeah.
you were saying between
No,
diesel and petrol.
the electric vehicle
Yes, the electric, definitely.
caused
That will
so
be
much
around
problem.
for thousands of years.
Yeah, I mean
Absolutely thousands of years.
you can get rid of the petrol fuel, you can get rid of the diesel. There's ways of dealing with it with the toxic components of any combustion engine you can sort out. But with the electric, you've got problems. You've got these what they call, I think they're like forever bloody stuff that once they get into the system,
You
you ain't
can't
gonna
get
get
rid of
rid of
them.
them.
The only issue with going, diesel, petrol, coal, things like that, are they are not an unlimited resource.
No, no,
And
they're
we
finite.
are losing these. We do need to come up with a better system
Yeah,
wholeheartedly.
everything we've got at the moment is finite. Even the electric we're producing, it's finite
Hmm.
because we're using one lot of fuel to produce another lot of fuel, and then using that fuel to run what we want them to run and say, "Oh look, aren't we good? We're green. No, sorry."
It's like you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, and meanwhile you're trying to stave off George.
Exactly, and the problem is George is getting a little bit antisocial now.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, the the film itself takes you on that journey comically. Let's be honest,
Oh, and
comically.
then some. I loved, when it was like, okay, no more children, and then them trying to, steer clear of it. And the guys are trying to attack the women, and the women are going after the guys. I mean, that was,
Yeah,
a pretty peak
exactly.
scene.
I mean, it makes you sit and wonder. The film itself is fantastic. Let's not get away from it. That film is fantastic. It's typical Ghibli, but let's be honest, it does explore adult themes. Now,
Yes.
I once said, I believe it was The Wind Rises, that I hadn't seen a Ghibli film that had adult themes within it. Oh boy. Yeah, POM POKO, definitely. Um,
Yes.
Parents will be explaining to their kids some
Why
of
am
the
I seeing
comments.
so many furry balls? Or why are all of the testicles out there and can be stretched out huge and made into parachutes and
And
all sorts.
carpets.
But here's the thing. That actually was a really cool way that that was written in,
Yeah,
because the whole thing was the underbelly of a lot of these animals, the raccoon dogs and things like that, was the softest and the most stretchable, and was incorporated with gold and made into money purses and other things. And
yeah,
so I think there was symbolism when they could pull it out and stretch it, had to do with how much money you had and
true.
how far it could be stretched out.
Yeah,
That's
that
just me,
is true.
but
I mean, there is somewhere, I believe, in the film, they say about people eating raccoon dogs.
hmm
Well, they don't anymore. They don't
they're an
anymore.
endangered species.
Well, I wouldn't say they're an endangered species, but they don't actually eat the animal itself. There are two dishes um, referencing the animal, or one of the animal. Yeah, two dishes, one for the raccoons and one for the foxes. But one's a noodle dish and one's a tofu dish, and then neither animal is involved. So you have one with the tanuki. I believe that's the noodle dish. I'm trying to find it, but I can't. um, I did have it lined up, but it seems to have disappeared.
Disappeared with
Um,
you.
yeah, so it's and the other one is the kasame, which is the fox, and I think
Right.
that's a tofu dish. But they both reference these animals in the title, but shock horror, there's no real animal in there anymore. They don't eat them, but they are still trapped for the fur, unfortunately.
Which is very sad that they are. I would hope that they would be more a protected species. Maybe not necessarily endangered, but a protected species, like our American eagles are
Oh
protected.
yeah, you would have thought so. You would have thought so. Um, so you can actually, um, people try to keep them as a pet,
Yeah, I don't think
but
they'd
then
be very
again,
happy.
no. The short answer is, can you have a tanuki as a pet? No, it's illegal to keep raccoon dogs as pets. They are first and foremost wild animals and require specialized care that people cannot provide. Secondly, they are not domesticated and will exhibit excessive aggressive behavior towards both humans and other animals. And also, if you do have the misfortune of being able to catch one and keeping it as a pet, if you try and let it go again, it's considered unethical within Japan.
That would make sense, actually.
Yeah, so it is a great big fat no no. It may look cute. Let's not deny, these animals, they may look exceedingly cute, and I mean they do look like big fat fluffy things, I mean, let's be honest. If you have this sitting in your home, most people would look at that and go, "God, isn't that cute?" Gorgeous colours. Yes,
It's still a wild animal.
it's
Here in the United States, there are some states that allow you to have actually raccoons as pets. You
no. You see,
know,
I wouldn't have thought that was e- practical either, because I suppose like these, because these are related to dogs, even though they climb trees, um, they can carry rabies. And the last thing you want in your home is a raccoon that you've got from the wild, and that little baby is carrying rabies. It's the last thing you'd be wanting.
well, here there are, like it's not here necessarily here in California, but in the states that have them, there are exotic animal doctors that do take care of them. I mean, you check them
Yeah.
out and things like that. And we do have exotic animal doctors here as well in California. Um, it's just raccoons are a no-no for California, but in many other states, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah. I mean,
And they can be very mischievous.
well, yeah, apparently so can these. But and they do, as I pointed out, they will exhibit aggressive behaviour because they are, quote, sociable animals. When they're in their own group, that's their pack. That's what they run with.
Yeah,
Um, you get in the way, they're going to be antisocial about it. It's a bit, I suppose, it's a bit like you when you go out to the football match. You know, you're a 49er fan, or you're a Cowboy fan, or an Eagles fan, and all of a sudden you go into the football ground, and instead of standing with your mates, you're with the opposite side, and you're thinking, well, I'm not into this. So
well,
you get a little bit aggressive because you want to get back to your mates. They feel the same way, I should imagine.
except of course in my house. Um, Everybody in my house, I think you're aware of this, as far as baseball, everybody in my house are all Giants fans. I'm the lone Dodger of the group, which of course, Dodgers and Giants are mortal enemies. So it's like, yeah, I'm just going to quietly sneak off.
Yeah, yeah. You're like your person that over here that wants to keep a fox as a pet. Yeah, everybody else thinks, yeah, foxes very nice, but they have this aroma which you don't particularly want hanging around your home.
It's
But
funny you
you,
should mention that. I had for many years a baby skunk,
a
a
what?
wild, a baby skunk,
Oh,
a
I
spotted
thought you
skunk.
said a baby duck. I was going to
No,
say
skunk.
a skunk. Okay,
Yes,
yeah.
a little spotted skunk. It
You
was the
see,
runt of the litter, and it got accidentally by its mother left in the house. It had come up through floorboards, she and her children, and it got left. And it barely had even had its eyes open. It must have been one of the very first excursions, and it was very small. And I raised it, hand raised it, for years, and this thing refused to bite. You could squeeze it around the back end; it would not spray, it would not bite. I freaked out one time because we had a black cat, and that cat was a killer. It was a farm cat, a mouse or whatever, and it would like to show off its kills with pride,
yeah.
lay them all out. And the cat came into the kitchen where I was sitting in the kitchen playing with the skunk. And I freaked out because the skunk started to jump off my lap. And so I grabbed it, and unfortunately, I grabbed it right around the back end. It wouldn't spray. It wouldn't even bite me. It did know how to spray because I smelt it when it was outside, but it never sprayed me. There was that trust to it. So I'm going to assume that those that have the raccoons and different things in other states have that same kind of trust
I
with
suppose
their
so. Yeah,
animals.
yeah. But you see, not everybody that keeps an animal is particularly competent, shall we say?
Well, I grew up on a farm and wound up working for a vet and worked my way for the vet through um, college and the rest of my careers with other things. So,
Yeah. I mean, I've always considered myself an animal lover, but I've grown up with dogs, cats, hamsters, guinea pigs, chipmunks. I mean, I,
how about hermit crabs?
I nowadays people say to me, "Why haven't you got a pet?" And my response to that is, I am working 8 hours a day
Yeah.
to keep an animal locked up in a in an apartment for 8 hours. No, that's not right. That's
Unless
that's, that's being cruel.
unless they are things like guinea pigs and you need to definitely have more than one because it's
Yeah,
cruel to only have one, But they're perfectly fine to be on their own for a few hours, especially if you do have a small herd of them, you know.
yeah. I mean, the chipmunk was. You could be out all day with the chipmunk, and the chipmunk would never know because it's nocturnal. A bit like, believe it or not, a bit like a gerbil or a hamster. They're nocturnal. They're not um, daylight animals.
Yeah, when ours would adjust to being daylight, if they for some reason got up in the middle of the night and reverted back, I would be like yelling at them, "Go to bed, go to sleep. It's
Yeah,
nighttime." And they would. They'd be quiet and just,
yeah.
but
The
I think
only
animals adjust as well, kind of like they did in the movie, just
yeah
to a certain degree.
the only animal I ever had that I shared my life with, um, I say animal, it was actually a rather large insect. Um, it was a praying mantis, female.
Oh, those are gorgeous.
It was about 6 inches long,
Hmm.
very dark emerald green color, and it was given to me by my amoy in Hong Kong. I never understood why, when she first gave me it, why she gave me this insect and what I was meant to do with it. Um, she sat me down and she said, "Look, you put it in your bedroom and you leave it alone."
Mm-hmm.
To which, being 6 or 7 years of age, I turned around and said, "Well, how am I supposed to feed it? How
You're
does
kind of
it get,
missing the point there.
how do you get it to drink?" Because I'm thinking cat, dog, hamster, you put special food down, and she looked at me, and God bless her, and she looked at me and she went, "It will feed itself.
Yeah.
And with what it eats, it will get all the fluids it requires from what it eats.
And you will have a bug free room.
And I will have a bug free room." Exactly. I found out later on, having sat up one night and watched this damn thing, its favourite patrol was to go around the floor, literally mugging cockroaches.
Oh,
This thing just absolutely gorged itself on cockroaches. And that's why she gave me it. Between that and the little chit chats to get rid of the mosquitoes, they're like little lizards, about the size of your
yeah.
pinky. You know, pull them, the tail falls off. But the idea
Yeah, I
was,
think everybody's had a gecko or,
yeah, no,
something
it's
like
very similar. But the idea was you get them and you put them in your mosquito net, roll your mosquito net up, yank your mosquito net, they drop all over the bed. That's when you find out why they're called chit chats, because you're lying there trying to fall to sleep, and all you're getting in your lug hole is this, and you think,
Yep.
fella, shut up, This little, all you see is this little tiny head staring straight back at you, as much to say, "Hey, you put me here. Get used to it." Yeah,
Speaking of food and the insects and different things that I love to eat, one thing I absolutely died laughing about was these raccoon dogs' favorite food, tempura.
Oh, Yeah,
course.
don't forget. Oh, hang on, you're forgetting one thing. They do like as well. They do like a McDonald's.
Yes, they do. And
Yeah,
I was going to mention that. It's like, yes, they nailed it with another McDonald's.
yeah. They like the McDonald's. They like the temper, and they like pizza,
Yeah,
which I never thought the Japanese were really into. But apparently, yeah, raccoon dogs love pizza. So hey,
it's really surprising in all the movies we reviewed that not one of them has mentioned KFC.
no. But then again, KFC is rather large in Japan, especially around Christmas time.
Exactly, which is why I've kind of found it funny that it's not been noted.
No. But did you also notice in this film there was at least, I think it was 3 or 4 German car companies were actually advertised on one of the buildings.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Mercedes,
Mm-hmm.
Volkswagen, BMW, and Audi.
Oh, that's right. Audi was in there too.
Yeah. So you had a big circle with these four. As soon as I saw it, I thought, well, that's a bit of backhanded advertising.
Well, I think that also kind of goes into a lot of the commercialism of society.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that was probably put in there more on purpose. Because, like I said, this movie was not just, oh, environmentalism or not just, oh, it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
There was so many different levels.
But I mean, if you look at the actual place um, of the city, I'm trying to find one here now. Here we go. You were mentioning these wonderful little parks that they made for
Hey,
the
Chelsea.
creatures. Eh?
This young lady, she's my niece. I
Yeah.
said, hey, Chelsea.
Oh, hello. How are you? There you go. These are one of the parks that ended up being made for the animals. As you
Yeah,
can see, they've done not a bad looking job, but as they say in the film, it ain't that big.
it's not that big. A little too late.
Yeah, too little, too late. They even rope off the path.
Yeah.
So but this is what you're looking at now for the Tama City. As I say, this is
You know what's funny is you're showing all these pictures, and all I'm seeing in my mind was back when they all gathered together to use the last bit of their transformation power to recreate the forest of how it was.
yeah, yeah. I mean, this there you go. This shows you everything that they get up to. It's I mean, if you go and look about Tama City, it's it's located in the western part of Tokyo, and as of March 2021, has a population of 148,000, nearly 149,000 people.
What movie are we talking about? We're talking about POM POKO,
POM POKO.
which is one of the absolutely funniest shows that you possibly could imagine. And like I said at the beginning, the name should have just been changed to Balls, Balls, Balls. But also underneath all of the humor and the silliness, you see multiple different levels of society between environmentalism and what mankind has done to reduce um, the forests for the animals and other things. You also see several different types of Eastern religions. You see some Marxism going on with the way society has become. You also see the difference between, you know, war factions, those that wound up choosing suicide over other things, and just in general, how a lot of interpretation to mankind has become. It's
Yeah,
not just the raccoon dogs doing this, it's an interpretation of humanity.
yeah. I mean, the the so the spherical things that you keep referring to, madam, is these.
Oh, God.
There you go.
You do that.
There is POM POKO, and these little things up here. That's what my co-host is referring to. There you go. See?
Or even if you, let's see if I can find, oh, that was not that good. But even there, you can see, all of the male anatomy hanging out everywhere.
Yep, yep. But this is mainly the characters. The one in the red little top there, not the kimono. The guy on the right hand side of the screen. That is Gonta. That is Gonta. The fierce looking lady in the red kimono with the purple obi. That's Granny. And the more I look, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
I know how to get rid of this. Bye. See what happens when you
Yeah. Yeah. And
frustrate Granny?
I don't care.
I didn't think you did.
I don't care like nothing, lady. I was just showing parts of the film so everybody knows what we're talking about. But yeah, I mean, you don't, as you say, you don't see KFC mentioned anywhere.
No, you don't. And like I said, it is such a humongous part of Japanese culture, especially around Christmas time. And
Oh
we
yeah,
have reviewed movies in the past that has included some scenes of Christmas. I'm surprised it's not.
I must be honest and say, even some of the anime series that I've watched, when they do the Christmas thing, um, they don't seem to do that KFC thing either. They seem to go elsewhere, which is, I suppose how they want to do it.
Could be.
Maybe they're not happy with everybody think that KFC is the only thing in town. I mean,
I don't.
they do
I
have
just.
Starbucks over there, I think.
There are so many things I'd much rather do if I went to Japan than have KFC or Starbucks. So
Yeah,
many things.
yeah. I got to be honest and say there are quite a few things I would sooner be doing in Japan than visiting a KFC or Starbucks. See, I don't even visit Starbucks over here because I've got a particular reason. Excuse me.
So do I. I have a particular reason as well, but I will keep that to myself. And as far as McDonald's, I wouldn't do a McDonald's. Well, I might go into McDonald's like Japanese McDonald's or even one in Australia because they have such different foods than we have here. But in general, I would not go into McDonald's in any other country and order the same things that we have here simply because my niece works for McDonald's, has for like the last 4 years, 5 years, something like that. We're McDonald's out as far as all that goes. Now, I do know, like I said, some of the cultural stuff that McDonald's and other countries have that we don't, I've heard is phenomenal. So,
No, but I don't know. I mean, I with their sausage and egg McMuffins, I don't go to McDonald's anymore because I make
make
my
it
own.
yourself. Me too. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I go to the local supermarket, buy me muffins, stick them under the grill, along with the ham, the
Yeah.
ham patties. Do everything under the grill. Couple of fried eggs, poof, done.
Mm-hmm. That's
And it's lots.
exactly what we do. It's much cheaper and it tastes better.
Oh yeah.
And I
Oh,
don't necessarily use the Canadian bacon with mine. I use sausage, the sausage patties. I'll form my own patties. It's just easier and tastes better.
I'm unable to do that with mine. Oh, I'm getting feedback. Why am
Okay.
I, why am I getting feedback?
I don't know. I don't hear you having any feedback.
I have. I can hear me with feedback. Oh,
Maybe you have a window open.
no, no windows.
I'm
No.
talking window on the computer, not window in your house. I'm a
Love you,
little
darling.
angel. I'm a little angel.
Yeah, pick up your halo from around your ankles. No, no, but never mind. Just, you know, I'm not, as I was saying, I'm not quite up to making my own patties. So we have a supermarket over here called Tesco's, and they sell packets of 6 patties, and they're gorgeous. So I use them instead.
Oh yeah, you can do that too.
Yeah. And believe it or not, they're just the right size for the muffins.
Hey,
Yeah.
that
Hey,
even works better.
yeah, the only thing that don't fit is the eggs, because I tried to buy one of them little things you stick in the frying pan to make the
Hmm.
eggs.
The rings, yeah.
Yeah, it didn't work.
A couple of years ago for Christmas, I bought my kids, and they are seriously no bigger than this. Um, and one is a waffle maker. The other is an egg maker where you can crack open the egg and put it in basically the little circle, and it comes the perfect size. It comes out the perfect size to put on your, if you mix it up before you pour it in, then it's like, the McDonald's type. If you
Yeah,
don't just crack open the egg, then it's just like a sunny side up egg popped in.
yeah,
I wanted to say once again, thank you to Robert S. Barnes. Actually, I should say Judy because it was his relative. And she's right on every single time we do these programs. She always winds up giving us a like.
yeah.
And we really appreciate that.
We are. Yeah, we old folk. We need the, we need the likes. We love the likes.
Yep. We might like ourselves, but we'd like to know that you like us too.
Yeah.
We need that self gratification.
Well, yeah. Me likes me, but me and her. Well, it's one of those on-off relations.
Yeah, well,
At least that's what we tell the rest of the world. But whether they believe us is another matter.
I don't think they'd believe us. Thank you.
No, after the last show, I think they realised just what the connection between me and you are. Yeah,
In other words, instead of putting trouble number one and trouble number two, we should be putting psycho number one and psycho number two.
yeah. I should go back and redo that program from a fortnight ago and just put "scared deer in headlights" as my byline, because I look
Oh,
like a scared deer in headlights. I'm telling you, I felt like
you
it.
you did perfectly. And then, like I said, when I heard you were on, I'm like, okay, I hurt. I'm definitely not camera professional, especially with all of the spasms I was having. And I didn't realize I literally sounded that badly. But it's like, I can't let you do this alone.
Yeah, you did sound a bit I mean, I was trying to. Was it? I had the roundhouse on where Shota finds the first door,
Oh, okay.
and I was explaining about the last being on the bicycle, Shota going up the hill, she coming past us on the bike, she stops, he stops, and he asks her, "Hey, you, was there any ruins?" And then I showed the roundhouse with next to the anime shot, and then I showed the roundhouse on its own. And you piped up, "What's that got to do with what we're talking about?" I thought, we're still talking about the same bit in the film. But yeah, hey, excuse me a moment. I've got a bit of a problem. I'm going to have to
I don't know, but she's a little funny at times, so we'll just have to ignore her. She seems to think that she's the queen of the world when she doesn't realize I am. And on that note, um, I did want to mention one particular part of the film, since she had mentioned the previous film that we were talking about with the bicycles and all. There was one part in this film that I found absolutely hysterical, is when the raccoons finally learned how to transform into other beings and creatures. They figured out how to transform into humans and spirits at the same time. So, you know, this policeman on the bicycle, is pedaling down the road, and he sees this beautiful woman sobbing into her hands. When he goes up to ask her what the problem is, she looks up and she has no face. And of course, he freaks out, and he starts running down the road without his bicycle. She hops on the bicycle and is keeping pace with him with no face. He runs as far as he can and runs into a convenience store, and he's asking, there was a woman, and he's panting and not quite getting out the full story. And everybody who's in the store, including the cashier, turns around and they all have no face. And then he freaks out and runs to the police station, and he's telling, the person that he works with, this is what's happening and that's what's happening. And the guy sitting there says, "Oh, okay, so what did you do? Did you run into a vampire? Did you run into..." And he turns around and he goes, "Did you run into this?" And the guy was completely, he was another transforming raccoon, didn't have anything. And the poor policeman just kind of passes out and then tries to tell his story, to other policemen in the area and the news crews, and they all thought he was absolutely nuts. Well, I mean, when you think this person's nuts, if they kept running up to you and saying, every supposed human that you ran across had no face, you know. So that was another part of the movie that I thought was absolutely hysterical and done very well. But while she's gone, normally we'll do dinner and a movie. Obviously, we're reviewing the movie right now, but I like to pair what is a major food going on within the movie. And I had mentioned earlier the tempura, and it seems like all of these raccoon dogs love tempura. And my daughter does tempura. I do too, but not as well as she does. And so I had to ask her for her recipe. And she's like, "Oh, the batter is very easy to do." And I was like, "Okay, normally I'll just buy a store-bought batter, and do it." She's like, "No." And so she gave me this particular recipe. She says, you take about, if you're going, depends on how much you're going to serve, but it's just her, and her girlfriend, but they normally eat the amount of 2 people eat. So basically it's a serving of 4. And she said, just do like 3/4 of a cup of cornstarch, about 1/4 of a cup of all-purpose flour, about a teaspoon or so of baking powder, a little bit of salt to season, a little bit of pepper to season, 1/2 cup of cold, and here's the main thing, it has to be cold water, and 1 egg that's slightly beaten and incorporated into that. And you mix everything up together, and then you can take, your thinly sliced chicken, any vegetables, that you have, like sweet potatoes, onions, whatever. Make sure they're thinly sliced. Um, Roll them back and forth in a little bit of cornstarch that's not in the batter, just kind of sitting there, and then dip them each into the batter, and then pop them into very hot oil, and let them kind of bubble and fry for, she said, maybe about 1.5 to 2 minutes, but basically until they're golden brown. And then take them out and, drain them on some paper towels, and they're good to go. And she will do this, like I said, with the vegetables. She has done it with prawns and has had so luck. But if she does it with like little shrimps, it works out better. And that is actually one of her favorite things to do. And every time she does it, I can smell it. I'm like, you better be making extra. And she's like, "But Mom, this is just for us." But that I thought was really funny that she does this. And then this was a main love of what, the raccoon dogs liked, was, the tempura. In fact, there's a scene in there where they come across a family having a picnic, and they incorporate in their voices one of the old spirits, and they yell out, "Leave the tempura," and scare the family that's there that was packing up to leave the tempura so they can go in there and eat the tempura. And that, I think, was probably another one of the better scenes in the movie. I had mentioned early on that this movie is a very wonderful movie, but I do think it has a couple of spots in it that lag. For about three-fourths in, it slows down a little bit. It's been moving kind of fast paced, but about the hour 25 mark or so, it starts to slow down just a bit. And it almost seems like, okay, did you kind of lose your way? Where was the writing going with this? Because it had just finished with the whole spirit parade that they had meant to scare all of, the new people coming in, and the new people that were settling all around the mountain. And instead of scaring them, everybody found it fascinating and they thought it was wonderful. And here they are thinking they did such a good job. And then all of a sudden, this theme park comes up and says, "Oh, yeah, it was a political stunt for our theme park," and basically stole their ideas. At that part, it almost shifted to where, okay, where is this going? You moved so fast from the parade and everything that they did to transform into this, to now it was all of a sudden, it seemed like they lost their thought of what they were doing, and it moved at a slower pace and almost seemed a little bit lost at times, but not enough to truly affect the movie or to affect what was going on. But I just kind of found that it was either put an extended 15 minutes in and kind of figure out exactly where you're going with this, or maybe cut back on certain things that maybe did not need to be done. And also, I had said earlier that this movie did not flow like you sit and you watch, The Wind Rises or My Neighbor Totoro or other things. It was much more an episodic type show where you go from this group of people doing this thing, this group of people doing that. Two raccoons were sent to two different islands to find the old masters. There was so many different levels of things going on. It just felt like you had to make sure that your mind was following each one. And are you back, Aisha? Because you are muted.
Kind of.
Okay.
I was showing a picture of the parade that you were talking about.
Yeah.
So, talking about the what you called the lag after the parade, I think that happened for two reasons. One, I think it was a director's choice to make the audience feel what the raccoon dogs were feeling, i.e., the sense of where do we go from here?
From here.
But also, and I may be wrong on this one, I also think that the director was trying to pinch a little bit of Miyazaki with the space where nothing's really happening.
I thought about that when I first watched it, but I didn't really see that much space for that. And maybe it was just simply because it wasn't as blatantly in your face as Miyazaki's is.
No.
Like a Spirited Away, and they're on the train,
Yeah, or Mononoke when it's the prince in the forest.
Yeah. Or even, The Wind Rises, just simply to the fact slow walks. Just,
Yeah.
down by the river, and you're just hearing that, but a slow movement in time. It's
Yeah.
not, everything slammed in your face. And you may very well be right.
Yeah, it could be that. I mean, we're saying it is. I mean, that's merely well, it's a presumption on my behalf. I think so. But I noticed you did the recipe while I was away,
Well,
young lady.
I kind of figured kind of needed to fill something because I didn't want to do too much without you being here with us. So, but yeah, I snagged my daughter's recipe because for the most part, I'm too lazy to make the batter. I'll
that
I'll
makes two
go
of us.
I'll
That
go
makes
and
two.
I'll go and buy the box mix. She actually will take and break it down. Oh, you need this much cornstarch, and you need this much flour, and you need forget that.
Um, hmm, I don't. My mum used to be like that, but I'm afraid I never got to. I never got to that stage, unfortunately.
She has been an experimentative cook since she could walk and reach the stove. So
Cool, cool. Right then. So we've covered the beginning of the film, the end of the film. What about the middle bit?
I think we covered a lot of the middle bit.
Yep, yep.
Mhm.
Any particular standout bit? One bit of the film that stood out to you.
Two, actually. Um, the riverboat sailing off, basically, you know, in for the suicide attempt. Um,
Oh, I know.
that, yeah,
Yeah.
that that stood out predominant in my mind because it reminded me of so many other cults that feel okay, we can't win. There's no way out. We're going to go out on our own this way. And they choose to do it happily. And in this, it was happily. But as we have experienced through history, a lot of these cults, the deaths were forced into.
Mm.
So,
This is the boat
correct.
where they actually it's the this is the Buddhist dancing sect, if I remember correctly, in it.
Yes.
So, and the guy that you see sat sitting on the bow is the one that the old master that they decided has gone off the deep end and brings in this Buddhist dancing sect, and they all decide that they cannot win any longer, so they're all going to get on this boat and cross over to the other side. And this is the boat that they do it in, and it is last seen going down the Tama River.
And if you look through mythology, it is said that at night, under the full moons, at certain times of the year, you can actually hear um, the beating of their bellies, the pom pok, that pom sound. You can
Yeah.
actually hear that from the spirits as they're sailing past.
Hmm. That would not surprise me at all.
The other two parts that stood out to me was one, I think it was a very beautiful scene where one of the raccoons was sent to the island to find one of the main masters, the transformation masters.
Yeah,
And
one
it,
went to Sukaku again, kind of bottom.
yeah, and in the process, um, wound up falling in love and having children with this man's, the descendant of who he was looking for, who is now the leader of, his daughter and having children. And they were very much portrayed in the transformation as humans. And you could see how much it was tearing up them, and you could feel the emotion that was going through. And then
Yeah.
the third main thing that stood out was taking it to the extreme that they were going to kill, the other sect was going to kill humans no matter what. And in the end, was hit by, a large truck, and all of them were wiped out in the middle of the road by being hit by that. And that is the only scene in it that you can even see any violence or blood. Because underneath the little bodies, you can see some of the blood oozing, from all of it, from being hit by the car. But those three, I think, stand out the most to me.
Yeah, yeah, I know which ones you're on about. The couple that you're talking about, that are portrayed as humans, uh, happens to be this pair, I believe.
Yes.
That's them there.
Yes.
That's the two that you're talking about. Um, Fortunately, so we shall say, you do not see, or I cannot find um, any of the pictures of where they get hit by cars.
Yeah.
But I mean, the big one that you're talking about, where it's again, it's Gonta and his crew
Yes.
that they finally do the kamikaze run and get hit by the truck,
Yeah.
which I always found was a little bit OTT. But then again, we are talking Japanese myths and legends, and they are, no matter
Yeah.
which way you look at them, they can be rather direct and bloody and gruesome.
Myths or legends are not, though, within, I would say our own history, because it just missed mine by about 25 years. But it's not unheard of. Think about World War II and all of the kamikaze pilots.
Yeah,
You know, it was a badge of honor to be doing this. So
yeah.
it wasn't necessarily, oh, okay, I'm going to die and it was horrible. That wasn't how they were looking at it. So I don't think it was out of line to put that particular scene in.
No, no. Well, no, I would. Oh, yeah, okay. Not out of line. I suppose, yeah. In in line. I, to be honest, though, I don't think Miyazaki would have put it in.
No, I don't think he would have. I think the closest that he has ever come to showing true realism, other than fantasy or anything going on to play into it, was The Wind Rises. And
Yeah.
you got to see some of the darkness when they, went to Germany to watch some of the cars being built and other things. And there was just a small bit of the shadowing and the foreshadowing of that. And also afterwards, when he sees what all of the planes did in the future and how many of them never returned, and that scene of all the, you know, planes and everything that went down.
Oh, the Boneyard.
Yes, I think that is probably as close as Miyazaki has gotten.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be about as close. I mean, Mononoke has heads and arms coming off, but that's always, I suppose one could say, almost kept at a distance. Whereas this isn't quite at that distance, especially when the one or two of them get hit on the road. Not the big
Yeah.
face, but the just a single animal.
Yeah.
When they're discussing about how at the end, I suppose it's near the end, where they're saying about the ones that couldn't transform.
Transform. Some were caught in traps, some
Yeah,
were, killed on the
caught on the
runways,
road. Yeah,
some were killed by, homeowners that found them going through their trash.
which is not unusual. I mean, I dare say it happens in the States when you get the odd raccoon or, pardon me, bear or
Oh,
mountain lion.
we get it all the time. Possum
Yeah,
here and there.
yeah, the odd possum or two. Yeah, Private joke.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry,
But
private
I know,
joke.
but private joke or not, I mean, it is one of them. And unfortunately, possums do get hit, and they are carrying their entire families on their back. Um, in Australia, you find so many kangaroo that still have their little joeys in their pouches, that are still alive, but the mothers are dead. So it's not just, here in the United States, it's, you know, everywhere that this is going on. And sometimes the young are left behind.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't exactly think. I mean, looking at the animal itself, um, I'm trying to find the actual. No, I can't see it. I was trying to see where if it give me the sizes, but I mean, they're not exactly small animals.
No, they're not.
So I
Um,
would imagine a car hitting one would would not only just kill the animal, but exceedingly damage your car as well.
oh, I would think so. I think it would be the same as hitting a a largely small to a medium-sized dog. A large
Yeah,
Pomeranian.
I don't know. Probably. Yeah, I would say it would probably be like hitting a small badger almost. I mean, badgers
Um,
are pretty solid creatures, and I mean, these do not look exact. I mean, they look small, round, and cuddly, but they're not exactly what I would call fragile animals
no.
per se. Not the way that they live, anyway. That's for sure. I mean, they are big animals. They are big animals.
Yes, they are. And I just realized that we have really, it doesn't seem like we've been on for almost an hour and 40 minutes.
Excuse me.
We've been on for an hour and 40 minutes.
Oh yeah.
I don't know where or why when we get doing some of this stuff that it's just unreal the time goes by so fast.
Yeah. Well, that kind of shocked me. That kind of threw me one. Oh, okay. Well, I suppose we better allow our audience to continue their Sunday afternoon.
Yes, because some of us have baseball today.
Yeah, some of us have other things to do and must be on a merry way. And we will thank whoever joins us. Thank you for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the program. Works better with
Definitely.
two, doesn't it? Works better with two.
It definitely works better with two.
Yeah, it definitely works better with two because it did. Time gone. I will let you sign off.
From all of us here at NDB Media, from us here at the Troublesome Twosome, have an absolutely wonderful, safe, and glorious weekend as we start moving into beautiful weather, spring, and baseball. So we will see you all in 2 weeks. So same bat station, same bat time. See you all later.
Bye bye.
Bye.